Aside from the inner calling that has awakened me to explore the world, it has been music that has most shaped who I am. It's always been the best bridge connecting people across all cultures with few boundaries. Music is at the centerpiece of my future philanthropic goal, which I like to take a moment to share with you. And also the recurring theme of my story today, one that somehow manages to tie together my entire life up to this moment, connecting where I've been with where I'm going, and hopefully striking a chord with all of you. The idea, Pass the Beat is my initiative that, I hope to bring music to those less fortunate ones around the world. The idea for Pass the Beat came after a profound experience I had at the Calicut Home of the Dying and Destitute in Calcutta, India, in January of 2014. Throughout my travels, I've seen many hardships, the suffering of so many people whose only flaw was to be born in the wrong place. But nothing compares to my experience at Calicut, which I like to tell you about. It's called the Mother House because it was founded by Mother Theresa in 1952 as a haven for those elderly and terminally ill, those without a family or home, to have an opportunity to spend their final moments in the embrace of some warmth and dignity, not in the gutters of Calcutta, but in the hands of some warm, loving volunteers from all over the world. I was one of them. I spent several weeks taking care of a dying man in his 70s, his body broken, his spirit disheartened by the type of hardships that I could never imagine. We got really close, and every day I would shave him, feed him, change him, and listen to him talk for hours. And although we didn't share a common language, we came to an understanding. One morning I arrived at Calicut and heard him crying inconsolably, a type of sadness I'd never experienced before in my entire life. There were several nuns and volunteers sort of hanging out near him, and I asked everyone to just give him some space. I sat next to him. He was lost in anguish, and I didn't know what to do. I resorted to the one thing that has always provided me with comfort in trying times: music. I gestured for him to close his eyes, put both of my hands on his head, and I started whistling Simon and Garfunkel's 59th Street Bridge song. After a moment, he calmed. He somehow recognized the song, and we both opened our eyes at the same time and just shared this incredible laugh together. I gave him a big hug, and it was a moment I'll never forget, and something I couldn't wait to go home to tell my father about. My dad, Whan Joo, lost his own father in the Korean War. Had a very difficult childhood, taking care of my late grandmother and navigating life without a male role model. I was raised in a very strict Korean household in São Paulo, Brazil, and expectations were clear. I was to be a doctor or an engineer. My passions lied elsewhere. Traveling and learning about distant cultures were something very foreign to my father. He didn't understand why I was traveling the world instead of attending graduate school. It's safe to say that I was a disappointment to him, but that's not to say that he didn't love me. It was him who instilled in me a love of music. we started this long-standing tradition of Korean barbecue followed by karaoke that still stands today. As an aside, I must say that traveling the world will destroy nearly every single stereotype and preconceived notion about other cultures. One that will remain intact, however, is Asians and karaoke. That one is not going anywhere. It was my dad who bought me my first cassette tape. Simon and Garfunkel's concert in Central Park. Our favorite song on it, the 59th Street Bridge song. When I came home from India, I shared with him the stories of the man that I cared for in Calicut. I showed him photos. Unbeknownst to me at the time, cancer was working its way through my father's body. And he looked at these photos of me and the man in a way that he's never really looked at anything before. Perhaps he saw a reflection of himself. They were both the same age after all. Their bodies were betraying them. But where my father had a family and the best doctors in the world to care for him, my Indian friend had nothing. I was all he had. And by seeing me with him, he saw his son in a new light. Not as a boy who defied the traditional path, but as a compassionate human being who was perhaps making as much of a difference he would be as a doctor. I took care of my dad in the same manner that I took care of this man at Calicut. He would fully recover, but the story of Calicut made him understand that the path that I had chosen in life was actually the path that chose me. My dad would fully recover, and after he was healthy enough to travel, I took him on a trip. We went on our first journey together, our first father and son trip to my favorite corner of the world in Patagonia. The look on my father's face sitting on top of Laguna de los Tres was priceless. He had a look of understanding, a look of acceptance, and a look of awe, too. We sat there for hours, connecting in a way I never imagined it would be possible. Communication is what got my father and I close after all these years. And communication is also what connected me and this Indian man when we didn't share a common language. And nothing is as more powerful and enlightening and healing and inspiring and uniting like music is. Pass the Beat is my initiative I'm here to talk to you about. The idea is a very simple one. I want to build music programs all over the world and connect music-inclined volunteers with schools and orphanages, creating a global sharing network designed to spread the joy of music. My idea is twofold. I want to work with businesses and music companies and musicians and artists and bands, have them donate instruments. And I also would like to create an easy-to-use app and website, connecting those that want to share their gifts with those who most need them. I stand here in front of you today sharing my dream to bring hope and inspiration to thousands of youth out there through creativity and art. And I'm here asking for your support, and I'm looking for collaborators and partners and mentors more than anything to help me take action. As Mother Theresa once said, even if you feel like what you're doing is just a drop in the ocean, continue. The ocean would be less because of that missing drop, and the world would be a lesser place without the contributions all of you are making. Thank you.